as long as I can here to make sure that I have everybody on board. Today's topic's real near and dear to most of us. It focuses in on those 5 secrets to drive sales. We're going to bring Greg aboard here in just a second. Give me just a few more minutes as we are trying to let this attendance list stop. It just keeps growing. So hang in there with me, guys. I really appreciate it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started now. It's 3:08, so I appreciate everybody's patience. I want to thank everybody for coming to listen to the first annual Mudlick Mail webinar. Again, these webinars are going to be recorded, and they're going to be placed on the Mudlick Mail website under the Learning Center, so you'll have the opportunity to re-listen to these, as well as have some of your other staff members take a look at them and listen to them. Our goal, again, with the Learning Center is going to be to give you guys yet another tool to help train your staff, train yourself, answer any issues that are going on with your store. The fortunate thing that we have with Greg Sands is that he has, opened 60-plus stores in his life. He's got another 20 more that he's just opened since he's come out of retirement, for lack of a better word. It's a guy who's had $440 million in auto sales. So there is not a problem or an issue or a concern that he hasn't dealt with or been involved with. And so this is our opportunity to take advantage of that. And so the webinars, this initial webinar was just a topic that we chose because it's definitely something that going into the summer season, this is the time in our industry where we make the most money. May through August, September is prime time. So it's very pertinent for us right now to discuss those secrets on how we drive sales. And so that's what's going to be our topic for today. But we'd love to have opportunities for you guys to email us other topics of concern later. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get this started. Let me just make sure I got Greg with me here. Greg, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Tim.
Okay, great. Well, first off, guys, if you haven't met Greg Sands before, he is the CEO of the Mudlick Mail Company, but he also owns 4 other companies. Currently, he has 10 America Service Station stores in the state of Georgia. Those stores typically average anywhere between $100, $150, some of them even $180,000 in monthly sales. He'll run car counts in anywhere between 400 to 800 cars per month. He also owns Service Tree, which is his newest model. Our 3rd location, Greg is opening in May. Currently, Greg has a store in Snellville that's opened, in Snellville, Georgia, one in Parker, Colorado, and the newest location in Thornton, Colorado will open in May. On top of that, he's also owner of 6 locations over in Houston, Texas right now under the Driver's Auto trademark. So he's got 19 active stores, not to mention Mudlick Mail. Greg, in his past, was the largest Goodyear tire store operator, and I'll let Greg go into some more detail with you guys. He's had $440 million worth of auto sales that he's been involved with in his career, and so we feel a great opportunity to thank you to have him on board with us today. And when I was talking with Greg, one of the things that always seems to come up, and we've had this discussion with a lot of clients, and when we talk with prospects, it always becomes a hot topic is, how as an organization, everybody's, faced with all different kinds of challenges out there. Some of them are real challenges. Some of them are challenges that sometimes we create. And so there are a lot of opportunities for us to help our clients get past some of those challenges and grow. And so when I was talking with Greg, one of the things I wanted to focus in on was how could we help these guys drive sales. So we spent a little bit of time coming up with some of these secrets that Greg uses to drive sales, and so we're going to focus in on that. Greg, I gave a little introduction about yourself and where you've kind of come from. There's a lot more. A lot of you have already heard it. Is there anything you'd want to add to that?
Well, not really. I mean, I think everybody's here to kind of hear what I do, and I'm ready to get into it and kind of go through these. There's, one thing I'd like to say is on the 5 secrets, everybody at Mudlick Mail has been trained. Tim, you run a store for me, and I've spent hundreds of hours with Tim prior to ever doing Mudlick Mail to make sure that when somebody calls in that there is a person there that actually has run a front counter, that has worked there. And also, you know, Ryan has worked with Tim for quite a while now and has spent hundreds of hours on that same process. And so I want to make sure that people understand on these 5 secrets. I can teach on each one of these, you know, some as much as a week. And so we're going to go over this in an hour time frame, but I would strongly suggest if there's things that don't make sense to you to call in. You know, at the end, I guess we're going to, I'll answer some questions live, and which I like doing that. And so if some stuff doesn't make sense to you or if it's too fast, I apologize. But this is something, if you're part of the Mudlick Mail team, you know, we're going to be teaching you. This never goes away, and it's just something that we offer free for our clients. And so I would like to also thank everybody on here that's a client of Mudlick Mail. I really appreciate the business, and it helps us all. If you noticed, our pricing is well below what's out there, and we're able to do that by being very efficient. Tim runs a very efficient operation. You know, this is it's able to keep our price down as well, so I appreciate your business, and I hope that by making the Mudlick Mail exclusive, meaning that we will only do business with one shop in an area, that we build trust and we can really work with one shop in each area to really make sure that they're the best shop in that area, and they stay a customer for, hopefully, for life. So I'm ready to get going, and so Tim, if you want to ask away, go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you again so much. And again, for all the existing customers out there and all you new prospects who are kind of out there checking us out, we appreciate you guys coming on board and hope this is a very profitable time that you're spending with us. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and we're going to flip the page. And our focus to start off on, Greg, is going to be on phone skills. This is a topic that comes up quite a lot with a lot of our customers. It's something that I know is incredibly important to you in regards to how your shops are ran and how you feel how this particular skill can impact dramatically the sales and success of your stores. And so what I did was I listed down some bullet points and some items that always seem to come up either in the meetings that we do around the country or in the presentations that I hear you give owners. And so I want to talk a little bit about these phone skills and get some feedback from you on there, and talk a little bit about, you know, answering the phones and why is it so important.
Well, you know, this is funny that phone skills is number one because you know, I can remember back in the 90s, I was the largest Goodyear dealer in the state of Texas. I had 38 Goodyear stores, and my stores always performed at a really high level. And I remember the guy asking me, well, why do you think your stores see more cars than our average Goodyear store out there? And I said, well, it's our phone skills. And, you know, you say phone skills to people, it's like accounting. They roll their eyes and say, oh, that's not true. And then I show them, and the people, there's probably several people on this, I don't see the names, but there's probably some people, it's been Mudlickers for a few years now that their sales are way in the hundreds. I think Mark Wisham's on here. I did see his name earlier today that he was going to be on here. But, you know, these are guys, when they use the anytime script, is that they realize how far wrong they were on how phone skills. What typically happens, let me just go into this. What typically happens when we advertise or when somebody checks you out, whether it's through the internet or they drive by, they will tend to call you first, and a new customer will. And when they call you, I noticed being part of Goodyear and being involved and seeing how Firestone worked and other companies, when I got in this business, I realized that, man, the guys at the front counter are spending a lot of time on the phone looking up parts, giving out prices, answering diagnosing over the phone, answering all kinds of questions. Well, one, I'm not a technician, so I couldn't do that if I wanted to. So I had to find a way around that, and my motto became, you don't make any money until the customer gets in the shop. So I had the freedom to work on, since I wasn't from the industry, I had the freedom to really work on how can I get this customer in my shop. And once I get them in my shop, I know that they'll do business with me. And so we just came up with the anytime script. And basically what that is we don't give prices over the phone unless it's a state inspection or an oil change. Just like if you were a doctor, you don't call a doctor and say, hey, I've got the flu, prescribe something for me. They're going to say, well, you need to come in and let me check you out first. And so this anytime script, and this is something that we have as part of Mudlick in the training center there online. You can get a copy of this. I'll give you just a quick example. Let's say somebody calls you and they'll say, well, how much do you charge for a front brake job? And that's pretty common. And our response would be always, when somebody asks that, is, well, what kind of conditions are you experiencing with your brakes? And they may say, well, they're grinding, or they're squealing. Whatever they say, as soon as they give you the diagnosis, not the diagnosis, but the symptom, the problem, then our response is anytime your brakes are squealing when you're coming to a stop, you need to have that checked out by one of our ASE certified trained technicians. Is now a good time to bring in your vehicle? 9 times out of 10, a customer will say yes right there. It will stop. Now, if a customer is a price shopper, then he's going to hit you again. Well, one, I know from doing this for 18 years that a price shopper is the toughest customer on the planet, meaning that if somebody's going to be unhappy, 9 times out of 10, it's a price shopper. If somebody is going to be more demanding, it's usually a price shopper. And even after you do the repair, they're going to beat you up on your price if they can find anyone on the planet who can do that job cheaper. And so we know that by giving them a price, one, they're not going to come to us, and if we don't give them a price, or if we do give them a price, they're not going to come to us. So we would rather them, by doing this, you keep from being rude to a price shopper, because that's not our ideal customer in our world. Our ideal customer is somebody right there will say, well, yeah, if you can do it right now, I'll bring in my vehicle. But if somebody goes into pricing, we just go right into the same thing. If they say, well, if it's a front brake job, can you tell me about what it will cost? Our response would go right back into, sir or ma'am, we'll tell you exactly what the price will be. When you bring your vehicle in, I'll have one of my ASE certified trained technicians fully inspect your braking system, and at that time tell you exactly what your vehicle needs. It's now a good time to bring in your vehicle. And we always close with that. Now, you can do some variation of that. You can take my script and you can vary it to fit your shop. But I can tell you we've done over $440 million with that script. It works in every city. If you took the customers that are out there right now doing it, it's probably well over $1 billion in sales that's been created just by answering the phone correctly. And now look at the time that you have at the front counter. Here's what typically happens when somebody calls into a shop, and this gets into separation of, think about this, the first time somebody calls or checks out your shop, they call you. So you only have one time to make that impression. So imagine that the first impression, you're just like every other shop out there, which is just like this. How much do you charge for a front brake job? Well, what kind of car you got? And they tell you, okay, well, it's going to be $149.95 plus tax. Okay, thanks. All right, bye. Or can you look up how much it costs for an alternator? All day long, I watch these service managers and owners just get beat up with the shop, and then these people rarely show up unless you have just a dirt cheap price. And so that's why we've overcome that. It is probably all these fit together, but phone skills, the reason why it's a secret, because most shop owners, even shop owners that listen to this today, still won't understand how valuable it is. It's just so critical. And so the other problem, yes, sir.
No, I was going to say, Greg, you're talking about the other problems. When you touch on those problems, and when you go in and audit your stores, or we've been around the country to some of our client stores, what are some of the common mistakes, some of the things it just seems like you always bump into all the time, and maybe elaborate a little bit on how you correct them?
Are you talking about with phone skills?
Yes, sir.
Well, a lot of times, especially if they're using our advertising, we want to know how they're doing. And the biggest issue with phone skills is that, educating shop owners what a no sounds like. What that means is that, I've talked to shop owners and they'll say, Greg, I'd love to get my car count up. And I'll say, well, are you saying yes to customers? And they'll say, oh, yeah, I never turn anything away. And then you hear them answer the phone, and somebody says, hey, how long for an oil change? Can you get me in right now? And they say, well, can you bring it in tomorrow? Well, that's a no. In my world, that is a no. Anything other than, well, go ahead and bring the vehicle in right now. We'll get you in, and I'll give you a ride home. Something, but it can't be, well, bring it back later, or come in tomorrow or next week, because we hate doing oil changes. So that's probably the biggest issue I see out there, is that lack of urgency. That somehow yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, what do you say to those folks out there we bumped into that have a voicemail machine, an answering machine, and not a live person picking up the phone?
You might as well just lock the doors on that. I don't see that as much now, because you don't see any high-volume shops running off a voicemail. That I don't know of any in the country. There might be one out there, but I don't know of it. Because now you're taking away that advantage. The whole advantage, that is, to be able to talk to somebody that's friendly. You got to remember, our customers out there are intimidated by us. Shop owners have a reputation for not being these friendly, happy-go-lucky people, and we're not. That's because we're not. We're high-strung, moody. We're under a lot of stress. And so if somebody calls a store and they get an answering machine, well, that's the ultimate in saying no to a customer, because that means, well, we'll just get to you whenever we feel like it. Versus if you have somebody who can answer the phone, and that they're polite and they're friendly and they're anxious to do business. Just think how you would be in any other industry when you call a place and they're very friendly and excited that you called and happy and they want you to come in. You just can't, you're dying to spend money with that company. It's such a simple thing, but it's so hard to overcome if you don't say, wow, that most important thing in my shop outside of the technicians is that phone. When it rings, if we say yes to every customer, if we say is now a good time to bring in your vehicle, we are going to be covered up with business. That is...
And Greg, that leads us in really to our next slide, which a lot of customers will tell us, hey, saying yes, how do I staff for that? How do I say yes to everybody? I don't see it possible on how I can make sure that I'm saying yes to everybody and be able to handle it. And so on the next slide that everybody's looking at, it talks a little bit about staffing and training, and I think that is a nice little caveat into what you're already talking about, is saying yes. How does that impact from a staffing perspective, and can you talk a little bit about how you staff for growth and how you should staff so you can say yes?
Well, this is a very tricky subject. For me, I've got, 19 stores. I'm opening a store next week in Colorado. It's real easy for me to say, hey, just overstaff, and, so that you're taking care of every customer. If you've got one store, that's so hard to do, because you're trying to make a profit, you're trying to make payroll, I've been there, and it's very difficult. So, sometimes the way it works when you have one store, and people that's been with me now for a couple of years, they're already opening their second or third store, which is real exciting. So I've been through this a few times. Technicians, if you've got good technicians and you hire and you're trying to go from 2 to 3 technicians or 3 to 4 technicians, the biggest fear a shop owner has is, well, if I hire a good technician, Bobby's going to quit. He's already warned me he's going to quit. You don't tend to lose people at the front counter when you add staff because they're on salary. A lot of them are. So the challenge is, how do you add technicians is really the question. And what I've come to the conclusion is that, if you do all these things real well, these 5 secrets, it all works so well together. And part of the biggest issue with staffing is you have to just oversell your technicians. And what I mean by that is we tend to sell what technicians can do in a day, not what they can do in a week or a month in the same day. And so if a technician's a 12-hour-a-day technician, that's what he's going to get, is somewhere between 8 hours on the low end and 15 hours on the high end, but you're probably not going to sell him 35 hours. Now the good shops will. So what you want to do is blow those guys out where they are don't worry about what they can get done today. Worry about just trying to sell so much work for them that they can't look up. And at that point, you say, hey, I'm going to have to add another technician. When you do it that way, then the technicians go, well, yeah, man, go ahead and hire somebody. What tends to happen is, you get told out there, hey, hire another technician. Well, you hire a technician, he drops his box, and what do you know? It's the slowest day, not of the week, not of the year, but in your entire career. There isn't a freaking car on the lot, and here we're dropping this great big box. And that's just what happens. And so then the tech you wanted to keep to work with him quits, and the sorry technician that's a C technician on a good day is a technician that stays. And so you're really in the same position, just a different name. And so what I tell people is, when you put these 5 things together, we will help you build your car count so fast and so intently that you're going to have to add staff. Your technicians are not going to be able to keep up with the work. And that's the deal. And on the front counter, very few owners are bad at sales. Probably most of the guys on this call, the shop owners themselves, are better salesmen than me. I mean, they've been selling for 20, 30 years, and they can sell service. Their problem is car count. They just don't have enough cars.
Well,
and
how do you?
Yes.
And I'm going to interrupt. How do you find those good people that can sell and find those good technicians, and what kind of training do you put into those guys so that they can meet some of the demands that you're talking about?
Well, we have a training system, and a lot of the things that we have are available for our clients, where we show you, we have questions that we ask in interviews that we share with people that are our clients. So we show them the art of interviewing. We do once a year a deal at Mudstock that we go into more of the training and that where we can do it face to face. But the way you find good people is, one, it sounds so obvious, but you got to be a good shop to work at. You can't find good people if you're not a good shop. And that gets back to, you got to be a busy shop where people want to work. And that's that vicious cycle that everyone talks about. That's why I said earlier that you have to build that base. You got to have customers walking in the door, and then people want to work for you. But if you do that, good people seek out the busy shops. Now you can do all the stuff everybody's done and run ads and talk to the tool guy and do all that stuff. But the bottom line, if you're a low-volume shop trying to find a bunch of good people, good luck. I will tell you, in my 19 stores, I'm fully staffed. And I heard you talking about our car counts. We have 6-bay centers that we have a 6-bay center this month that'll break 1,000 cars. This month it's Hamilton Mill in Georgia, and we got a store that's doing 800 cars at the 6-bay center. And so when you have that kind of car count, you can get technicians. It's when you have 180 cars that you're in trouble, and that's where, you know, part of these other steps all come together to build your car count so that then you can staff the technicians. The front counter, it's nothing more than hiring somebody that the owner likes, that he's willing to train. And, you know, that's not an exact science for anybody, because somebody that I might like and will work with at the front counter is not somebody that, you know, that somebody else might like. So you've got to find somebody that you like, that you go, hey, I really want to train this guy. And that's been tricky to make that a universal deal. So the good people side, now when you talk about recruiting and hiring, that's a whole nother issue, but that's going to take more than this hour-long deal to talk about.
Well, and Greg, you know, and that's a good way. I know with from the training perspective, we get a lot of questions that'll ask us about training and how do we how do we train our employees, and there's a lot of great information that we could go into. We're limited on this particular webinar, but I will tell everybody that, you know, it is sometimes the hardest thing to do is to stop what you're doing and kind of focus your attention on that person to help get them trained up to where you want them to be. But you have to have some sort of systems in place to train these people, to get them to do the things that you want them to do, and to steal a line from you that you use all the time, Greg. Matter of fact, you used it on me today, was to inspect what you expect. And so we'll definitely have some...
I'm sorry, you inspect what you expect. Inspect what you expect, and that is very true. I tend to think with the people I've helped over the years, when I work with the owner and the owner's head's right, meaning that you know, for example, one of the biggest problems that happens with shop owners is they'll have a good staff of technicians, but they've always got a beef with somebody. I'm not sure why shop owners don't get it, that, you know what, the next technician you hire is going to have an attitude problem. So get over that. I think when you finally get over that, and yes, everybody knows you're the boss, so you don't have to flex all the time. You know, guys that are the nicest, some of the nicest guys in the world are shop owners. But, man, they'll look back at their technicians sometimes and just, you know, those technicians are just terrible in their minds. And you know, all they see is the downside. And so they tend to fire a technician only to hire another one that's no better. You can talk guys been in 20 years and ask them, how many techs you been through? They'll go, oh, God, a ton. And the technicians they have right now are no better than the ones they had 5 years ago. So what if they just said, hey, outside of stealing or being, you know, disrespectful, and it goes both ways, disrespectful from them and from the owner, you know, that, you know, we're really going to do our best to keep the same technicians. We're going to send them to training. We'll pay if they want to go to a class. You know, let's see if in 5 years we can keep a group of guys together. That's what we do. We have technicians that's been with us. I had a group that's come from Goodyear down in Texas. When I owned the store, they moved their families out here to Georgia to work for me. And I'm not the easiest guy to work for, but they know what to expect, and they know I'm not going to just walk in because I'm in a bad mood and start looking for reasons to fire them. Because anybody that's been with me 5 years has given me probably 20 reasons to fire them over that 5 years. So you just got to work through it, and that's the biggest thing I would tell shop owners. Is give yourself an advantage. Don't be an average shop owner by firing your technicians all the time or being held hostage, because what happens is when you fire a technician, the one left standing, the guy that used to be nice to you, well, now he's the guy that's going to go, you know, I think I need a raise. If I don't get a raise today, I might just have to push my box out. And that's what a lot of shop owners are, just held hostage by that technician in the back. You can only grow your way out of it. You know, you have to add cars. Yes, sir.
We had a question, too, about your technicians. Can you explain a little bit about, some people out there use lube technicians. who just do oil changes. Can you talk quickly, and then we're going to move on to advertising after this, just quickly on your philosophy on who does the oil changes and why you use general service people and you don't have oil lube techs specifically?
Well, I like my technicians to work on oil changes. And the reason for that, and now it's all in how you set this up. Let's say you have 3 technicians. You might see 5 or 6 oil changes a day. Some busier stores might see 10 oil changes. When you hire a technician, or if you have a current group and you say, guys, you know, each one of you are going to get an oil change in rotation, which means in the course of a day you might get 2 or 3 oil changes in a day. Is that going to be a problem for you to do? I've never had an issue when I ask people when I'm hiring them, hey, do you mind doing 2 or 3 oil changes a day? We're going to rotate them, and we're going to PMI them. We're going to check them out, and we're going to sell the work that's needed, and it's not a problem. It's when they don't know, or you just throw it on, hey, man, go do that oil change. When you explain the reasons why, and the reasons why I have is the average car out there is worth $20,000, $25,000. That's a used car. And you can say, well, today they're getting a little older, so maybe they're worth $15,000. Why do I want a guy who is an $8 an hour employee doing an oil change on that car with the potential of blowing an engine? You know, think about how many motors, and I've blown a few motors, and guess what? Maybe in 18 years, there might have been 1 or 2 technicians that did it. The vast majority of them were these general service people or oil lube techs, because they get pulled off of that to do something else, and guess what? They end up with a blown motor. So I like the technicians to do it, and I like the idea of them PMIing the car. Very seldom do you really have a good system where a lube tech checks out, does the oil change, and then a technician comes over and really inspects it. Very few shops do that very well. I couldn't do it, and so that's why I do it this way.
Well, good. Well, I wanted to switch gears a little bit now because I'm trying to keep this in the time frame. Again, for all those who might have just been joining us, so I want to welcome you to the first Mudlick Mail webinar, 5 Secrets to Drive Your Sales. Again, this webinar is going to be recorded and downloaded on our Learning Center, so you can listen to it in the future. We're going to move on. Our next topic I wanted to talk about with you, Greg, is your advertising. Because even though, you know, Mudlick Mail, obviously that's near and dear to us because we do the advertising, I want you to step out as a shop owner, because you've really built Mudlick Mail and you've trained us, and it's all focused in on what would a shop owner want. And can you kind of touch base? I've listed several bullet points in there from, you know, where do I spend my ad dollars? How do I effectively sell off my advertising? How do I track it? How do I know what's best for my company? And maybe sum it up a little bit about why you do what you do with your stores in regards to advertising.
Well, just quickly, a little history. You know, Mudlick Mail was created for my own companies. The intention when we started this was not to go out and market for direct mail. It was really my company, and then there was a handful of what we call friends and family that we would be able to pull our advertising together and be able to do direct mail. Most everybody from the start, I mean, almost everybody from the very start when I put this together is still in the deal today. Meaning that we still do direct mail. They all do it consistently every month. This is one of those things you think is so simple, but people just screw it up, and it's something that has consistently saved my neck every month, every year, and that is advertising. Now, I've done everything. I've done TV, I've done radio, I've done Yellow Pages, Valpak, Money Mailer, you name it, I've done it. I've done newspaper, inserts, little ads, and there isn't anyone that's wasted more money on advertising than me. And, you know, the world has evolved. You know, back in the early 90s, you did Yellow Pages. You put a Yellow Page ad in there, and guess what? You were in the hunt, and the big fight in the early 90s was, can I get positioned close enough to the front in auto repair? Today, I honestly couldn't tell you why anybody would spend a dime in Yellow Pages. I haven't spent a dime in Yellow Pages in almost 12 years. Not a small ad, not anything. I could care less about that Yellow Page book, and it's such a crock that it's still sold out there, and it's so outrageously expensive when nobody goes into that Yellow Page book. So that's probably the biggest thing out there I see that's a disaster. The other common mistake, and I've done it many, many times, is this marriage mail stuff, Valpak and all that stuff. Hey, they do work. They do what they say, and that is they'll bring in some coupon shoppers. So what you'll end up with is a bunch of people on the low end of the spectrum coming in, asking how long for an oil change, sitting at your front counter. They don't want you to check anything else out. They'll beat you up, and they leave mad. I mean, that's really what you get. The holy grail here, and this is what, you talk about a secret, and this is, anyone that knows me, I'm the biggest spender with Mudlick Mail. Our shops average between 12 and 18,000 direct mail pieces a month. And that's what most people don't realize. To get to 600, 700, 800 cars in a shop, my shops are no different than most of the other shops out there, except I know how to advertise. I know the amount to advertise. Now, I can do that because I don't have money wasted in other areas. Now, here's the secret to direct mail. Whether you're with me or with somebody else, you try it. And that is that you're going to get let's say you do 10,000 pieces. And you're going to get enough coupon shoppers off of that, because you're still going to get the coupon shopper, that they will pay for that ad. So if it's $3,000, they'll get that. What you don't realize, and this is what's missing, is you get the perfect customer, which is that non-coupon shopper. That's a person like me. That's a person like probably most of the shop owners on this phone. You think, well, when's the last time you used a coupon? Well, Arby's has coupons. Have you been to Arby's? Why didn't you take a coupon there? Or Burger King, or all these retail outlets. Well, because you're like me. You may see it, throw it away, but you still go there. That's your best customer. You will absolutely not get that customer through Valpak or through one of those other marriage mail deals, because somebody like me, I'm not going to cut open that little envelope, except in my case just to see who's advertising in there, meaning I want to see my competitors. Outside of that, I would never look at that inside there. But a postcard, it's the last frontier where the small guy can compete against the billion-dollar Firestones, Goodyears, Pep Boys, all the big guns out there. This evens the playing field because they can't do it on a massive scale. So they're stuck to those subpar Valpaks and things like this. You can take your 2-mile area and dominate your market, and no one else can touch you. And in fact, it's so good, that's why we have market exclusivity, because we've said, man, we can't have two people beating each other up on this deal. But that's what's missing, is that if you got rid of Yellow Pages and you got rid of all the other little goofy things, don't waste your money on billboards and radio, and with the exception of if you're in a really small town and you're on a radio show. I've seen where that has worked in some places. We got some people in Paducah, Kentucky that do a good job with that, the Carneys, but they're a big direct mail company too, and they do some great volume out of a little bitty town. So that's how I do my advertising. I would rather have somebody look at what we do is we look at an area, and I like to see where are all my potential customers. So it doesn't mean that your shop may not have 10,000 homes around it. If that's the case, then you don't want to do 10,000 to do it, but you want to hit all your potential customers. The most beautiful thing about the advertising that I like, the direct mail, is I can cut off anybody that I don't want to advertise to, meaning if I'm in an area that my average income's $50,000, then I may not advertise to anyone in that area that makes $20,000 a year, because they're just not going to have enough money to really fix their car. And those cars tend to be cars that I don't really like to work on, meaning they're in such bad shape that they're a $300 car that needs a $700 fix, and sometimes that's scary. That's how you end up with a dead car. So hopefully I've touched on that well.
Yeah.
I don't have, and I can tell you in 3 markets, or I should say 3 states, in several markets in 3 states that I personally owned, that is my staple. Whether now I did it before Mudlick Mail, I'm obviously, I'm such a true believer, and anyone that doubts it, my gosh, we could give you client after client, and some of them are on this phone call today. In fact, our direct mail works so well, that's why we spend so much time trying to help people learn how to staff and how to say yes, because you won't be able to handle it. And, that's the truth, is that you do the advertising the way I do it, and your car count goes from 180 to maybe 350, and then up to 400 and 500. It's not a matter of, hey, when do I hire somebody? It's how fast I can hire somebody. And that's really where the whole picture comes together, is that you get blown out, but there's some certain things you got to do offline that we can teach you on how to say yes to customers and how to talk to your staff to make sure that they're prepared for that. So advertising is, again, it's not as critical to me as far as day-to-day management, because I just set it up. It's checked off my list. I advertise every single month and have for 18 years.
Well, Greg, and I'll add, too, for those joining us who maybe haven't looked at the Learning Center, how to judge your direct mail, how to sell off your direct mail postcard. Those documents are located in your Learning Center as well, which is, again, off of our website at mudlickmail.com, because it is critical. I mean, Greg made some great points about, your direct mail is only as good as the people answering the phone and handling the customers when they show up at the counter. So a big part of our company, what makes us very unique to other people, is the fact that we care more about how you're handling the customers and ways to help you maximize your advertising potential than actually the direct mail itself. The direct mail itself will work itself out. If you do the direct mail pieces, it'll all work out. So that's why we do spend a lot of time. So thank you for touching on that. I wanted to keep moving on here, and the next thing is, and it's kind of something you already alluded to, it talks about being a yes company, and I know you talked about it a little bit. Just spend another quick 2 minutes on how to be a yes company, and then from there we're going to talk a little bit about speed of service.
Okay, well, how I came up with this is that, when I think of my shops, to run a successful shop, you have to have something that separates you from the competition. If you both have same locations or pretty similar locations and both look nice, one thing that's going to separate you is your people and how you treat your customers. If you could just train yourself, train your staff, that, man, our answer is yes. Because in our business, most of you have probably never been a customer of a shop, but I can tell you it can be brutal. I live in shops, meaning I go to other people's shops. I see it in my own shops. We don't run a perfect operation, and when somebody's not running the kind of sales that I think they should, we check them out, and sure enough, this is one of the most common deals. When you go from a yes company to a maybe company or a no company, you're dead. That will keep you in that 200 cars a month type of deal. If you're running that kind of car count, you're saying no to customers, especially if you've been in business 20 years. What else could it be? I mean, you've been there for 20 years, taking care of customers, and you got 200 customers coming in your shop. There's got to be a reason for that. Well, most people don't know what a no is. They're not sure what a yes is. The only thing that is a yes is yes, and that means I give this as an example. If you take a 1-star hotel and a 5-star hotel, the difference between the two is so slight. But if you go into that 1-star hotel and say, hey, can I check in? I'm 30 minutes early. They might say, well, gosh, our cleaning crew hasn't shown up today. They hadn't cleaned your room. You're going to have to come back. In fact, we're not even going to get you in at 2 when we said we would. A 5-star hotel has the exact same problems. They might have had somebody not show up. They might have had a problem. They might have, and guess what their answer is? Absolutely, sir. Let me go ahead and I'm going to buy you a drink at the bar. We're going to get your room prepared and get you taken care of. That's just, it's so subtle. But see, they put themselves out. As shop owners, we tend to not put ourselves out, meaning somebody says, how long for an oil change? And we kind of look behind us and look out in the shop as if to say, oh, well, we're really backed up right now. Instead of going, wow, if that was my mom or my sister or my best friend or my neighbor, I'd say, hell, let me go ahead and get that in for you. Hey, move that car out and get his car in here and get it changed. That's how we need to treat every customer. Put ourselves out. The more you put yourself out for customers, the more money you will make. The more people will come back because they'll see that you really care. It's so obvious. And shop owners are very savvy when it comes to that when they're in other types of businesses. You know, if you go out to dinner and somebody doesn't act like they want to take care of you, you see it right off. Well, that's the same way in our business. So being a yes company, just train your staff that, hey, we're going to be a yes company. And again, call Ryan or call Tim when you have time, or email them where they can call you back. And dive into this a little bit more because it's so critical and it's such a great one. We should have probably just broke these up into one at a time because I can talk forever on each one of these subjects.
Well, and I think too, and I'll before we move on to the next one, I'll say, and Greg is very, if you've been to some of the things he's talked about, he'll tell you that by saying no, if you start looking at it from a numbers perspective, you know, if you say no, and some of you have heard Greg say this before, if you're saying no to an oil change now, that's the same customer who's saying, if you didn't have time for an oil change now, there's no way you're going to have time for a brake job. And so you've created that no out there, and then that no's got other people that they talk to. And so very rapidly you can get an opinion about your store that, you know, you're too busy, you're blown out, you can never get in. And you got to ask yourself, if you're saying no to a customer, you know, 4 or 5 times within a week, that's 20, 30 times in a month. So in a year, you might have said no 300, 400 times. Well, how many times do you say no or maybe before you've already negatively impacted your market area? And so we're all limited on how far people will drive in to do business with us. So I'll let that kind of resonate a little bit, and we're going to move on to the next one. Before our wrap up, it talks a little bit about speed of service, and some of the things that Greg talks about a lot. You'll see it also in some of the training documents that are on our Learning Center. But it talks about how after you've said yes to that customer, speed of service is not about how fast we fix the car, but how fast we help the customer. Greg, can you talk a little bit about what your perception of speed of service is, what your expectation is, and why it's important and how it impacts your business?
Now this speed of service, you know, the other things get the customer in the door or they prepare you. Speed of service is what drives sales, you know, and most shop owners probably know this subconsciously or consciously, maybe in some cases. And that is that if somebody comes in and let's say they're they have a broke car. I mean, they need real repairs done. Well, we know from experience, I mean, this is factually we have tracked it, that if you can get back to that customer within an hour, your chances of selling that is almost 100%. And now if you wait 3 hours, it drops in half. Then it's if you wait 4 hours, it drops by 75%. If you wait till the afternoon, man, it's a crapshoot because people now think about the customer. They drop off their car at 7 or 8 in the morning. They don't hear back from you till 2 in the afternoon. And then you say, hey, here's what it needs. Well, now all they're thinking of is, man, I got to have my car back. I got to get man, I got to take it somewhere else. Now I'm not going to have my car tomorrow either. Maybe it's going to take them that long to fix it. It might be 3 days to get it fixed. Versus you contact them in an hour. You don't have to promise it done today unless you can get it done. But if they know you're on it, they know they're not going to get faster service anywhere else. Good customers are more concerned about their time than their money. So if you can make that a just a staple. And so that means here's some little tricks. You know, we'll run, and you know, I give you the store because you can look it up, or if you're ever in Georgia, you can drive by there. I think you'll see it. You know, our Hamilton Mill store, you know, over a year's time, it'll see, on average, on a slow month, it may be 900 cars. It'll see as many as 11 or 1,200 cars in the summertime. It's a 6-bay center, and one of the bays is used for state inspection, so we can't do repairs in there. So it's really a 5-bay center. Well, on a Saturday, we'll see 60-plus cars. You go, well, how do you guys do it? Here's where the teamwork, that speed of service, the most important customer to us on a priority scale is the one walking through the door, not the one we've already sold. So a lot of times on a Saturday, we will check out cars till 2 or 3 in the afternoon before we ever turn a wrench to fix one. And so that means if we've got 5 cars in the bays and a new car comes in, man, we push a car out of the shop and we bring that car in and we check it. That doesn't matter if it's an oil change. We don't care if it's a flat tire. That car is a priority because that's our future. That's what people tend to forget. Not only are we working for today, but that guy that's a flat tire right now, if we wow that guy when he can obviously see we're stacked up with cars, that guy's going to come back to us. If we handle that oil change and get him right in, the technicians buy off on it because what we tell them is those hours you have out there in that shop, that's in the bank, man, that's sold. This is the hours that's going to keep you busy, you know, next week, because some of this stuff will carry into the next 2 or 3 days if we have a slow day. So that most important, just that mentality, and again, it takes putting it all together where you teach your technicians and your managers that, hey, this is our priority. And the reason why is we want, and that's the only way you can ever add a technician. You want to blow these guys out where they're like, man, I don't even have time to work on the cars. I'm so busy checking them out. Can you imagine turning away a car? And then what do you know? And I've been there. You know, early in my career, I've turned stuff. We're full up today. Well, guess what happens? That customer doesn't come back when you're not full up. It's always the same. Used to happen to me. I'd say, well, we're full up today. You know, if you bring it back tomorrow, we'd sure be happy to get to it. Well, they don't come back tomorrow, and now the next day you're dead, which is the way this business works. It's feast or famine. So we've just learned we're going to check out everything. When the cars go, then that's fine. We'll get on the cars, and you know, a lot of times we work late so we can get the work out, but we're not going. We'll prioritize them. Let's say you have 20 cars that comes in. Some of those people don't need their car today. They'll say, you know what, we prioritize it. Once we check all the cars out, then we go through our board, and we have that online, and we go, okay, these are the cars that have to go today. And then these are the cars where they're out of town or they're in no hurry. We know that we'll always prioritize them so that that's how we're allowed to be able to just check out cars the first half of the day, because we know not every car has to go today. But boy, if there's 100 hours to write up today, we're writing up that 100 hours, even if we can only produce 30 of those hours today. And so that's a big, big secret. If you guys on this call today will just try these things, and then work with us so that we can get you better and better at it, it is actually a life-changing event. You will be shocked at what it will do for your business.
Hey, Greg, we had a quick question, too. That someone asked, yes, you know, on the Hamilton Mill store, what is our RO on those typically? Do we have an average RO that we have on there, and how does that car count affect that?
It affects it a lot. Like we'll run, and you know, I am glad they asked that question, because that should be something that is put in there. Our average RO will run somewhere between $150 and $160 a ticket. Now, there's you know, a ton of shop owners on here, and this is about the time where the shop owners stick their chest out and go, oh, well, God, I run a $350 ticket average or a $400 ticket average or a $700 ticket average. Well, if you took that shop, ran that way, they would probably be running a $500 ticket average. We don't really care about the ticket average. And I would encourage you guys, you get taught this, you know, a lot of this mythology that goes on out here in the automotive business. where these shop owners, I mean, God bless them, they're taught by, they're trained by a lot of folks out there that don't run shops or don't have shops, but I hear ticket average all the time, and that's a quick way to run your car count down into the ground. If you focus on ticket average, you're less likely to take an oil change. You're less likely to take a flat tire. I've been a victim of this too. I've done it. And that's why these things are secrets. It's going to run counter to what you believe. If it didn't, you had no reason to be on this call. I really don't track it. I want sales and I want car count. If you could give me 100,000 in sales on 500 cars or 100,000 sales on 250 cars, I'll take the 500. Now, people out there in the industry that actually train shop owners out there, they would tell you, no, you want the 250. Well, I don't, because I know that's market share. I know that those 250 that only did oil changes this month, those are my broke cars 6 months from now. And so that, man, what a great question.
There's one other quick question I'll have you follow up on. One of the guys was asking, do we do any couponing that talks about the free diagnosis? And the check engine light and the AC coupons come to mind. Can you talk a little bit about why you use those two coupons?
Well,
it's the free check engine light and the AC one.
Sure. Well, what we're trying to do, and we live by it, I don't mind paying. Think about this. Somebody brings in a check engine light. What are the probabilities that we just reset the check engine light? Now, the free check engine light we have, it's free if they do the repairs. So if they don't do the repairs, I think it's $85 or whatever. That's been a great coupon for us because it's bringing you a broke car. Now, not everybody in an area has a broke car. So just because you put that on a coupon doesn't mean you're going to get killed with a bunch of them. You might get 5 or 6 in a month, but those are probably going to average $600 or $700, $800 a ticket. Some of them are going to be zero, but I mean on average. And so that's why we put that out there, is it's a way to drive broke cars. You're going to see more check engine lights. There's maintenance. And those people that are worried about the check engine light, those are your money customers. So that's why we go after that. And then what was the other one that you were asking about?
Well, and that really answers why, do we do, free check engine lights?
On the free AC, I'm sorry. Yes, on the AC check, it's the same thing. I mean, how many people come in, their air conditioning is not working, and then they say, hey, can you check it out for free? I'll check. Hey, bring me all those you got. Because now, see, let's look at where's the pressure at? Pressure's on me at the front counter to sell that AC job. So if a technician says, well, I won't do that, I'm not checking that out for free, well, it's just because we haven't educated him on what that means. Well, unless you want to do oil changes all day, put the pressure on me, man. I'll sell that air conditioning job for you. Wouldn't we love to have 4 or 5 air conditioning jobs come in a day? And wow, we didn't get the diagnostics on that, but we got an $1,100 ticket? I mean, it's just common sense. That's why we live by that. Everybody else in town, $29.95 check out AC. Well, that's fine. Then they're just going to get less of them.
Well,
I mean,
if
somebody goes there, they're going to get the repair.
Now, and what would you, going back, on your Hamilton Mill, kind of a follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
If the owners out there are saying, hey, that's just a really low ticket average, how do you explain that? If someone says, man, 150, that's just really low for that many cars. How would you answer that?
Well, the store made almost $600,000 last year in profit. I'll take the low ticket average. Now is that store going to go from doing $2 million in sales down to $1 million? No. Now, if I was running 300 cars and doing that kind of volume, all I have to do is lose 30, 40 cars, and it just turns my business upside down. You got to remember, I'm not just worried about today. I'm building the future. So the only way I can build the future is to say yes to customers. That is an example, that's an extreme example of what happens when the guy at the front counter has been trained to never say no to a customer. That's what you could have in your shop. I would just ask each person, you know, that's out there, you know, wow, could you live with that? If you made it your rule that we're going to say yes to everybody. And, you know, I went through this just as an example. I know we're running long, but as an example, I was at a meeting with a chain of 4 stores in Houston, Texas. They weren't my stores. And I met with the team, and everybody swore to me they were not saying no to customers. Well, the owners did. When I met with the management team, you know, I said, you know, you guys are running, I think they're running 56 cars a day collectively of the 4 stores. And I said, well, here's what I want you to do. I said, are you guys tracking ticket average? Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's you got to have a 275 ticket average was their deal. So I asked the owners first, but I said, just get rid of it. I want you to track 2 numbers, sales, car count. Well, what happened? Well, their sales went up. Their car count went up more than their sales. The guy emailed me. I could send it to you. In fact, the owner wouldn't mind me telling you. They're over 70 cars a day already. This is the first week. Now he goes, great. He sent me an email. He goes, man, I would have never guessed that. I thought my guys were saying yes. But see, they were turning away all the little tickets. I mean, think about it. If you're getting graded on a 275 ticket average, why would you say yes to an oil change? But yet as owners, that's our future. We turn that oil change away. Wherever they go is where they're going to do their brake job. That's where they're going to do their transmission flush. That's where they're going to do all their repairs. So every time, and just think if you've done this habitually for years, I don't do oil changes. Well, guess what? That worked in the 90s. I did very few. I might have done 2 oil changes in a day. But the whole world has changed now. If you're not into maintenance, you're probably seeing yourself slowly and slowly die to where you're making no money. And your shops are dead. Because you got to be able, and maintenance, part of maintenance is oil changes. Do I like doing them? I hate them. But I have to do them. It's part of it. And you just have to get over that you have to change with the business.
Well, and Greg, and that's a good question. And I will, you know, follow up and say as well as that as I talk with shop owners around the country, it's one of their biggest fears is that by saying yes, they're so concerned about keeping their ticket average high that they are turning customers away. And so I think a lot of guys and shops out there have to decide. I mean, they have to make a decision. Do I want to grow the shop and add car count and kind of go through some of the aches and pains of doing that, but grow my business? Or do I want to try to stay at a comfortable level where I can hit a certain ticket average? But in doing that, that will definitely stunt their growth. And so the other couple questions that came up, go ahead, I'm sorry, do you want to answer that?
Well, just to speak to that, and I mean, the one thing, just remember why everybody's on here. They wanted to know my secrets. The secrets that I use are counter to what you've been taught. It's counter to what you're going to believe. All I ask, spend 1 week just saying yes to every. You don't have to take my word. Just try it privately. Just say, we are going to say yes to every single thing that comes in, and we're going to make a ticket up on everything. If it's a flat tire, they get an invoice. If it's an oil change, it's an invoice. We're going to do everything. And see what happens to your car count. And then I would ask you at the end of a week, because your car count's going to be significantly higher, what is the integrity of your ticket average if you're cheating? See, that's cheating. And everybody does it, you know, because it's kind of a thing where you throw your chest out. I'd rather have a low ticket average and have a lot of money in my pocket than strutting around about, hey, I got a big ticket average, when ticket average doesn't pay my bills. You know, that was what I walked into in this business 20 years ago. Oh, you got to have a certain ticket average. Or, my God, you got to do so much volume per shop, or productivity. Remember that deal? Oh, everybody, we got to manage the hell out of productivity. None of that crap made me any money. You make money by sales, great gross profit, you put it in the bank. I'd rather build that car count than build a huge ticket average. Plus, you're not wearing out the customer. just trying to, hey, if somebody doesn't spend $300, I don't want them. That's the shop that's going out of business. And so just try it. Try it privately. I'd challenge you guys. See if what I'm telling you is the truth. Some of you will do it and report back to us. Let us know what you find. I'd love to hear it. Let us share it. I would love to see you guys take the challenge. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that was good, and we're running a little late, so I apologize. If you have a question, now is definitely the time. We're in our wrap-up phase. If you want to email us a question or raise your hand, and we will we'll try to get to you here. If I don't get to everybody, I apologize, because I want to try to keep this fairly tight, but we started a little bit late. There's a couple questions real quick, and I think if you want to chime in, Greg, but one of them was, how do you handle the customers that came in and you've diagnosed the car, you've sold them, and then you throw some oil changes in front of them, and it causes you issues in delivering the ones that you've already sold?
Well, you're saying you throw oil changes in front of that one that you've already sold?
I think it might be a lot about setting expectations.
Well, now one thing we do is we have a shuttle where we take people home. And if you're an owner, I would make my car a shuttle before I have people, because where you will run into an issue, I think that's a great question. Where you'd run into an issue is if somebody's standing there waiting for their car. If they're standing there waiting for their car, boy, they're a priority. I'd move somebody else's car that's not there out of the way and get their car done and get them out of there if you can't shuttle them. The reason why and you can go to my shops and you'll see we'll run a lot of cars and there won't be anybody in the waiting room because we've just trained our people. If we can get those customers home or get them to work, then we can manage our day. We can still get their car done, but we don't have to worry about them sitting in the waiting room watching Oprah. As soon as Oprah's over, they're going, hey, where's my car? My car should be done, and why is that car getting pulled in front of mine? They're not going to understand that you're waiting on parts or that you're prioritizing your day. So that I would probably, if I had more than one bay, I'd probably not move their car. I'd move somebody else's.
Well, and how do you utilize rental cars? And when is it appropriate to use one of those? Because I know we use those at our shops around the country as well.
Sure, we do it all the time. You can use Enterprise or somebody. They're usually pretty good to work with. And if you want to, if I can get a big repair and give somebody a rental car, the only thing that I tell them they got to pay for it on their credit card. We'll reimburse them for it. But when we call them and tell them, hey, your car's ready, they have to bring in the rental car. If they don't, that's their business. But, they need to sign off on that, hey, we'll give you a rental car. It's a very, very small part of our business. We only do it in the cases where we have a transmission or an engine job. Something's going to take a while because most jobs we're going to get done that day or the next day. And if it's only a day away, we will really push for, well, we'll give you a ride to work, and why don't we just pick you up when you're done and we'll have your vehicle ready. Again, see, these are priorities. When you've got an issue with that one customer, well, now you can make that a priority. Let's get his car done. Let's get his done quicker than the guy that doesn't need his car until 8 o'clock tonight, or he doesn't need it till tomorrow. Those are the things, these great questions are what you have to balance. That's when I call prioritizing, to go, wow, that one, because this person really wanted a rental car, or that they don't want us running them around town, let's get their car done quicker than that car. And that's our choice as owners. We're still going to get everybody done. It's just trying to make everybody happy.
Okay, and again, real quick for you guys, we're going to wrap this up in a few minutes. You can type your questions in that little white search box in the bottom on your screen if you have a question. If not, you can always email me directly at tim@mudlickmail.com. And I'll be happy to get with Greg and answer some of these questions. Some of the questions that have popped up, too, that I can answer real quick for you are future training classes. We do have our Mudstock event that's coming up. For those of you who have not been to Mudstock before, Mudstock is an annual event. I think Greg mentioned earlier. It's going to be September 16th and 17th. You can see some of the information on our website. We'll have additional information on the website and emailed out to all of our clients and prospects here in the coming days. But the Mudstock event is a combination of training on sales and operations, hiring and staffing, and accounting. And it really takes a lot of these concepts that we're doing right now, a lot of the stuff we've talked about very briefly. I mean, Greg could probably spend an hour on each one of these topics, and it really will break it down for you. This next one coming up, because several of you guys have attended this, it's going to be kind of an advanced course and kind of a new client course. So you'll all get a little bit of something new, but it's always something that you always want to keep getting refreshed on. And so I would highly encourage you guys to take an opportunity to look at that. For those of you that are growing your stores, we have just added, and I really haven't introduced this yet, I'm going to be sending it out, but our growth and strategy program is going to go out on September 14th and 15th. Now, this program is geared for those people who want to grow a second store. Do I lease? Do I buy? How do I hire, staff, train? You know, what are the pitfalls? It is truly going to be an insurance policy for you. If you have any interest in growing, you're going to want to take this class before you do it. Greg has opened up just dozens of stores, and he's probably made it, and he'll admit it, all kinds of different issues he's had in the past. Well, we're going to talk about that, on how you should open the store, what some of the requirements are before you even consider it. And so look for some information on that. That's going to be extremely limited. We'll probably only take the first 25 to 30 people for that, because it is a very intense 2-day program. Mudstock will have about maybe 150 so. It's about half booked or so already, but I will have more information on that for the training classes. Now, real quickly, Greg, one last question here before we wrap this up. I had a question on how do you track your technicians' time?
Well, we just use flag rate, and there's really not an issue. Now, they clock in and clock out. We have to do that to make sure that they don't fall below minimum, but boy, I've never in my career had that happen. I would be getting rid of my front staff if that happened, because you know, again, this gets to making the whole thing fit. If you're advertising 10, 12, 14, we have as much as 18,000 direct mail pieces a month. Do you really think you're going to have guys not hitting their hours? See, and that's the trick, is that the technicians, they should, if a technician works an 8-hour day and he flags below 8 hours, then I probably have the wrong technician too, because it's probably not because the work isn't there. So hopefully that answers that question. And I want to speak on that Mudstock. Let me just speak on the Mudstock quickly. Sure. I know we got to wrap up, but you know, that's at my ranch. This thing is trained by all of my people. I'm there the whole time. I do one-on-ones. I work with the team. This year we have Bruce Jenner's coming out, who was the #1 athlete on this planet in 1976. He's got the Kardashian show on cable TV. He's there. I think the president of Auto Inc. or something's going to be there. There's going to be a lot of neat stuff. But the main thing is you're going to get trained by some of the best people that work it every day. It's my favorite week of the whole year outside of Christmas, because I might get a present. You know, that is really, it's hard to describe what a great opportunity that is and a great event. And if you want to go to that, you should really get a deposit into one of your guys here at Mudstock or at Mudlick Mail, because that sold out quickly last year. We've not pushed it at all this year because we're wanting a lot of new people in there, give them a chance, because all the people from last year, most all of them are going to want to come back. And so we're trying to make more room and try to get some new people in there where they can get a chance at this too. So anyway, if you have any more questions, Tim?
Real quick, I'm going to unmute. Robert Horgan, you're on the phone right now. I know can you hear me, Robert? Robert Horgan? I was trying to get, you had your hand raised for a question, so I want to make sure we didn't receive anything typed in from you. Are you there, Robert? Okay, Robert, if you need a question, or if any of you guys that have questions that didn't get answered, you can email me at tim@mudlickmail.com. There was a few other questions that came out that I'll just quickly summarize for you. Training for the front counter folks. That is the best event I can tell you about training your front counter guys is going to be attending that Mudstock event. I would highly encourage you guys to send your service writers or managers there, people that you feel are committed to your business, because we will be talking about the front counter and how those guys should be handling the phones. And it's a lot of information. What we'll do is we'll add some of those topics to future webinars so that you guys can get a good feel for that. So that's a great question. George Hack, thank you for your comment as well. George runs an incredible shop in Florida. That guy has really taken a lot of information from here, and he has just revolutionized his business. But he makes a comment about under-promise and over-deliver, and that's how he puts his oil changes in front of other repairs. And so setting expectations for your customers, being a puppeteer on what cars get serviced and what cars can be held over, it's all critical. If you went behind the scenes at George's shop or any one of Greg's shops, you'll see that that general manager is much of a puppeteer as he is a salesperson and organizing it. The only way you can really grow and handle the cars is to be able to manage the front of the house as well as the back of the house. So those are some great questions. The last question I'll leave you with, Greg, and then we're going to wrap this up, is what should be the gross profit per job? What is your requirement for gross profit on each job, or do you have one?
No, I don't have a gross profit per job. I have a gross profit per store, which is 60% gross profit. And now a gross profit, everybody's idea of gross profit is different. Our gross profit includes general service labor, technicians, parts, wrecker service, sublet. It's everything to do with fixing that car. We're to 60%. Now what we do have, and again this is on the Learning Center on the site, shows you what my, what do you call it, on the parts matrix. Mm-hmm. We use RO Riders. Some of you use Mitchell. I'm sure there's some other deals out there, but you'll see my matrix. If you go by that matrix, because you know some jobs are a dealership job. You can't charge the same. You're not going to have the same gross profit on the parts. Now you might if you work on the labor. But you can see what my parts matrix is. It's out there for you if you're a client. That way you can institute it or make changes, but it works. We don't get a ton of push-off on our prices. I think our labor rate's 101.65, and that's in all markets. We haven't had the push-off there. You know, some of you may even be higher. But that's where we're at. I would like to say quickly, Tim, I really want to thank the guys that's on here. It looked like about everybody stayed on there the whole time, and I know it's been a long webinar. We've got to do a better job of keeping it within an hour, but I really love this. On the training on front counter people, you know, we need to do a webinar on that because it's so critical, and I can really help in that. Supporting the owners out there on with their service riders. So I appreciate that. I love this. Had a great time.
Well, I appreciate you coming on board. I'll wrap it up real quickly with any question, again, that didn't get answered or didn't get answered fully, or maybe you wanted to answer or talk privately. You can contact Tim, Ryan, or Sean at mudlickmail.com. We'll be happy to get with you on that. Any topics you guys like to hear about, we've definitely got some great information from you guys based on these questions. We'll build future webinars around those. Again, this webinar is taped and will be downloaded into our Learning Center under Seminars, and it'll give us I think it takes us about 24 hours or so to get that downloaded, but it'll be there for future use. Our next scheduled webinar is going to be May 26th, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Right now, we're going to offer these free webinars at the last Wednesday of every month. As we get rolling along, we might add and do this twice a month. But for now, you can count on at least once a month. So we look forward to hopefully joining you guys in the future. Again, I highly encourage you to go to our website, mudlickmail.com. You can get a lot of great information about us, about how we help our customers, about all kinds of training tools and things and forms in the Learning Center. And again, you can contact any one of the sales associates anytime to have any help or any assistance in your matter, whether you're a client of ours or not. So again, I want to take this opportunity for you guys being on this webinar. I hope it's been somewhat beneficial for you guys. Again, email me any questions or any comments. Greg, any last parting thoughts before we let go?
Nope, that's it. Thanks a lot, Tim. Been great.
All righty, thanks, Greg. Thanks for everybody attending, and I hope you have a wonderful, prosperous rest of the week. Have a good day. Thank you very much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.